All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Mile High County College Football Podcast. This is episode 8. Doing it on Zoom this week because we're both at home for Thanksgiving break. But yeah, it's just a simple episode today. We're going to talk about the rankings from last night. This is today's Wednesday, November 23rd. So day before Thanksgiving, day after the rankings came out for week 12. Yeah, week 12. So yeah, we're just going to recap our rankings real quick. Or we're going to recap the rankings, do our own, talk about Heisman, and then we want to talk about some conference championship scenarios. So I'll start with my rankings real quick. Jacob does not have a camera today, so you'll just see his name. It just says Jacob.
Sorry.
You'll be able to hear him. So starting in the back end of my rankings this week, I had UCLA at 25, Coastal Carolina at 24, Ole Miss at 23, North Carolina at 22, Oregon State at 21, South Carolina at 20, Cincinnati at 19, Tulane at 18, Utah at 17, Texas at 16, Notre Dame at 15, Florida State at 14, Kansas State at 13, Tennessee at 12, Penn State at 11. So that's my 25 through 11. Jacob, let's hear yours.
Okay, I had UCF 25, Texas 24, Oregon State 23, Cincy 22, Tulane 21. I had Coastal at 20, Ole Miss 19, UCLA 18, North Carolina 17, Kansas State 16, Utah 15, Notre Dame 14, Florida State 13, Oregon 12, Washington 11.
Okay, and then college football playoff had Louisville, Cincinnati, Texas, UCF, Oregon State at 25 to 21. 20 through 16 was Mississippi, Tulane, UCLA, North Carolina, Florida State. And then they had Notre Dame, Utah, Washington, Kansas State, Penn State, 15 through 11. Surprises here was really North Carolina dropped too far for losing to Georgia Tech. Um, and honestly, the biggest problem for me in this 25 through 11 is Coastal Carolina not being in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they didn't even play last week, so I don't know what deserved them to drop out, you know? Um,
I think I think if you go back up, if you look at three loss teams,
yeah,
I think right now out of all the three loss teams, that Florida State's playing the best.
yeah, yeah.
So I
Florida
had
State
them
or
ranked.
Notre Dame. I mean, Kansas State, if you put them on a field with Notre Dame and Florida State, might would win. Kansas State might have the better resume out of those three so far as of right now. But I mean, Florida State's definitely, I think, one of the hottest teams in college football right now, for sure.
Yeah,
And then really, there's not much else that really made me be like, you know, um, Cincinnati at 24, interesting as they've got a big matchup with 19 this week. And then we'll go 10 through 6. Tennessee was at 10, Oregon was at 9, Clemson was at 8, Alabama at 7, Southern Cal at 6, LSU 5, and then the top 4 stayed the same. Me personally, I had Washington at 10, Oregon at 9, I had Alabama 8, Clemson at 7. Southern Cal was at 5 for me, and LSU was at 6 for me. And then had the same top 4: TCU, Michigan, Ohio State, UGA.
yeah, I had the same as you. I had Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU, USC, LSU. Then I also had Clemson, then Alabama, then Tennessee 9, Penn State 10.
Okay. So you didn't have Oregon in your top 10.
I had Washington 11, Oregon State or Oregon 12.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Then, I mean, really, I was surprised to see Tennessee stay in the top 10. Honestly, I thought they would fall in that 12 to 15 range. But, nothing else really surprises me. But I do think that this 5 and 6 should be switched and the 7 and 8 should be switched. And that might sound biased from me as a Clemson fan, but I mean, when you beat a conference team by 30 points and the other team in front of you beats an FCS school by 30 points, it's, you know, I just think that deserves a jump. Same with Southern Cal and LSU. Southern Cal beats a ranked team and LSU beats a Conference USA school by 30. which is what they're supposed to do. But I think that ranked win versus a non-conference opponent win hinders that team to move above the other one, in my opinion.
Well, in my opinion, he's got one loss on the year. LSU has two, and USC's one loss was by one on the road. Like, I think you got to have USC as the top ranked one loss team in the country right now.
Yeah, I agree. But that's enough for the rankings, I guess. Moving to Heisman rankings real quick. And I briefly mentioned this on the episode. I think we both did on the episode earlier in this week, where we both considered putting Caleb Williams at 1.
Yep.
But I did keep my top 3 the same as last week's. I did go CJ Stroud, Blake Corum, Caleb Williams again. However, I've dropped Drake May from 4 to out of my top 10.
Really?
Yeah, it's at this point it's late in the year, and it's kind of just like, yeah, he still has the stats, but he lost to Georgia Tech in a game that was needed and played bad. So why keep him in?
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Hendon Hooker, he dropped from 5 to 7. But he probably should be out of the top 10 just because of the injury. Unfortunate for him, though, obviously. Nothing against him,
Yeah.
And then, so the rounding out my top 10 for this week, I've moved Bo Nix from 6 to 4. Max Duggan has moved from 8 to 5. Bijan Robinson, I moved from 10 to 6. Like I said, Hendon Hooker's at 7. Stetson Bennett moved down from 7 to 8. Bryce Young stayed at 9, and Jane Daniels is at 10.
Okay, so I also had the Stroud, Williams, Corum. I had Max Duggan at 4, Stetson at 5, Hooker at 6, Bryce Young 7, Bo Nix 8. I had Jaden Daniels 9, and then I put Jordan Addison at number 10 just for fun.
Reasonable.
He's
Do you
a
have Bijan
beast.
Robinson in there or no?
He was 11. It was between him and Jordan Addison, and I was just like, I'll be different and throw Jordan Addison in there.
That's reasonable. But yeah, Heisman is at this point kind of. I feel like it's kind of just between 3 guys, maybe 2.
Oh,
probably
for sure.
one.
It's Stroud, Williams, and Corin.
Yeah, I think
For sure.
it's between that and but yeah, that's all for Heisman. So let's get into talking about some of these bigger games this week that we didn't talk about yet. Also want to highlight real quick, last night, Miami, Ohio, Ball State played for bowl eligibility. You'd picked Miami, Ohio on last episode. I picked Ball State. Miami, Ohio won 18-7. So congrats to you on that one. And so, yeah, let's talk about these games real quick. So first off, on Friday, we had Tulane and Cincinnati playing at 12 o'clock. Or no, I think it is 12 o'clock on Friday, yeah. That game is at Cincinnati, I'm pretty sure. And the
Yes, it
winner
is.
is playing to go to the American Championship. Now, this could be a rematch in the American Championship. The odds of it are low, though. So I think the scenario is UCF beat Tulane, right? But lost to Cincinnati.
No, UCF beat them both, didn't they?
Oh, did they?
I think that here, I'll look it up. I'll fact check it. But I think UCF beat both of them.
Okay, so
And then their
no, yeah.
losses are UCF beat both of them, but they
Okay, so
lost to Navy and ECU.
yeah, so you're right. Okay, so UCF, if they beat South Florida, and South Florida's been very, very bad this year. UCF, if they beat South Florida this week, will go to the American Championship. However, if they were to lose for some reason, they would not go, and Tulane and Cincinnati would rematch, right? But UCF with the win goes, and Tulane Cincinnati winner will play UCF in the American Championship. However, like I said, the odds of that happening are really low with the rematch. The game is at Cincinnati. I'm more than sure. Yes. Game is at Cincinnati, 12 o'clock on Friday. Cincinnati is -1 point. It's a hard one to pick for me, honestly.
Two good
But
teams.
yeah, both good teams. But I wanted to be a little different here. And I'm gonna go ahead and say this, but I'll repeat it later at the end of this episode. And this is my hot take for the week. I think Cincinnati beats Tulane by double digits. So I'll take Cincinnati. Cincinnati covers.
I also think Cincinnati wins and covers. They've been there before.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll double down right now. I think Cincinnati wins the American.
Oh. I can see it happening for sure. I think that them and UCF American Championship will be a great game. And at this point, it's by the committee status, right? Not by me and your status, but by the committee status, it's looking like whoever wins that championship game will be in that group of 5 bowl game.
Unfortunately.
New Year's 6. So yeah. So it's almost like I want Tulane to win because they're new. You know, we've seen UCF in that game. We've seen Cincinnati in that game.
I'd like to see, yeah.
But yeah, I think Cincinnati is the best out of those 3, honestly. Yeah.
I want to see Coastal get a chance to make that bowl game, though.
I do too. So scrolling down, I think we talked about both of those. We talked about.
Did you want to talk about Baylor, Texas? It's on. It's 12:00 Friday as well.
Did we not talk about that the other day?
No, we didn't. I've got the ones that we talked about and not talked about on here too.
Okay, so Baylor, Texas. I think I saved this one because Texas does have a shot at the Big 12 championship. In that, yeah. Okay, so that's correct. Yeah, they do. So, also real quick before we start talking about that, since I was talking about Ball State and Miami, Ohio playing last night, another conference championship got clinched, and it was the MAC. Toledo had already clinched their spot, but Bowling Green and Ohio were playing each other to go from that other side to play Toledo, and Ohio did win that game. So the MAC championship is clinched, so it'll be Toledo versus Ohio playing for that. The only other 3 that are clinched is the ACC, which is Clemson, UNC, SEC, Georgia, LSU, and Mountain West. I think it's Boise State and Fresno State. Let me double check real quick.
I know it's Boise State.
Yeah. Yeah, Boise State, Fresno State. Okay, cool. And then we'll get to this later. But UTSA is the only other team. UTSA and TCU are the only 2 teams that have clinched a spot.
And USC.
Yeah, I think USC has all but clinched it, but I think there might be a small shot that they haven't.
I don't think so because their last game is not a conference game.
True.
And they're the only team with 1 loss in the Pac-12.
And there's 2 more that we can talk about later, but let's continue on this Texas 5 and stuff like that. So Texas is playing Baylor at home. Texas is minus 8.5. So the scenario here in the Big 12 is, like I said, TCU's already clinched the one of the spots, right? The scenario is between Kansas State and Texas. So if Texas beats Baylor and Kansas State loses, Texas will go. But if Kansas State wins, Kansas State goes. So we can talk about both those games right now. I'm going to try to mix in here, talking about these scenarios and talking about these games, right? So Texas is at home minus 8.5 against Baylor. I do think Texas wins this game.
I also think Texas wins.
But the 8.5 is throwing me off a little bit.
I'd taken Baylor to cover.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do the same. I'll take Texas to win. I will take Baylor to cover. And then continuing on the Big 12 vibes, we'll go to Arkansas, or not Arkansas. I don't know why I said that. Sorry. Kansas and Kansas State. Kansas State is at home, and Kansas State is minus 11.5 against Kansas. We talked about it for weeks now. We've seen a little bit of a fall off with Kansas. However, they do get Daniels back at the quarterback position. They still didn't look good the other night. I think it was maybe a, coming back to it, getting back used to it game for him. Deuce Vaughn, I mean, Kansas State's offense other night didn't look great, and they still got to win. I just think Kansas State gets it done. I think they want to see TCU again in the Big 12 championship. I'm going to take Kansas State to win. And I'm going to take Kansas State to cover 11.5.
I'm also taking Kansas State to win and cover. I just don't see a world where Kansas State doesn't come out and dominate.
Yeah. I think they want that. I think they want that rematch with TCU really bad. I think they do.
Yeah, and I think they're going to get it.
So we'll go back up, and that is, by the way, that Kansas State is 8:00 on Saturday. Texas Baylor is, I think, it's 12:00 on Friday. Sorry. Next, okay, you stop me when you see a game that we haven't talked about, because we talked about NC State, North Carolina, we talked about Arkansas, Missouri, talked about Florida.
We talked about Iowa, Nebraska.
Okay,
that was the next one that I had. It's a Big Ten West scenarios.
Yeah, so we'll go to the Big Ten. Matter of fact, you know what? Instead of just talking about the games, I think we can just go ahead and skip around, right? You okay with that? All right, so we'll go to the Big Ten because we already talked about the American. So we'll follow in alphabetical order, I guess. We'll go to the Big Ten. So one side of the Big Ten is already clinched, right? And that is the Ohio State-Michigan game. Now, I do want to hold that game for last. I want to talk about that game last, right? But on the West side, it has not been clinched yet. It is either Iowa or Purdue. So the situation is if Iowa wins, they go. But if they lose and Purdue wins, Purdue goes, right? Because I think Iowa beat Purdue, so they have the tiebreaker. Iowa this week has Nebraska at home minus 10.5 at 4:00 on Saturday. Sorry, not Saturday. Sorry, Friday. I think I'm gonna have to take Iowa, and Nebraska's just been, I don't know. Nebraska's just been really bad. I think I'm gonna take Iowa to cover 10.5.
I'm also taking Iowa to cover.
With how good their offense is, defense. How good Iowa's defense
Their
is.
offense has been better.
Yeah, the offense has been better. I can't knock that off of them, but their defense is just so good. Nebraska's offense has been so bad. I'm just gonna have to take Iowa to win. I think their defense shuts Nebraska's defense down. Offense. And then we'll just talk about Purdue real quick, just because even though we've already taken Iowa to win, which means they would clinch that Big Ten West side. Purdue is playing Indiana at 3:30 on Saturday. They're at Indiana, but Purdue's minus 10.5. I will take Purdue to win that game, but I will take Indiana to cover 10.5.
I think I'm going to take Purdue to win and cover. Indiana's just not a very good team.
Yeah. Following in the alphabetical order lands us, which I briefly just mentioned it earlier, in the Conference USA, where I said UTSA has already clinched their spot. Now, the two teams battling for that other spot is North Texas and Western Kentucky. Now, I need to double check this because I did forget, but I think North Texas lost. No, I think they beat Western Kentucky, actually. Yeah, they beat Western Kentucky 40-13, but they're tied. I think they're tied in the Conference USA. They're both 5-2, I'm pretty sure. I meant to keep that up. Let me check real quick. Right here. So, yes, they're both 5-2 in the Conference USA, but like I just said, North Texas did beat Western Kentucky, so they hold the tiebreaker if they were to continue staying tied. North Texas plays Rice. Wait, we talked about this, didn't we? A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Because we were talking about bowl teams playing for bowl eligibility, and Rice is one of those. And I said North Texas would win this game. North Texas is at home. They're minus 14. I'll take North Texas to win this game and clinch their spot in the Conference USA Championship. Minus 14 is weird. I'm going to take Rice to cover that 14, though. I will take Rice to cover that 14.
Give me North Texas to win and cover.
Yeah. And then just to talk about it again, like the Purdue-Iowa situation, Western Kentucky is playing Florida Atlantic at Florida Atlantic. They are minus 7.5, and Florida Atlantic is a team playing for bowl eligibility also. And I think I took Western Kentucky to win this game. And 7.5, I'll also take them to cover that.
Yeah,
But
that's why.
I do think North Texas wins. I think both of these teams win, but that would default North Texas would make that conference championship against UTSA. And I'll go ahead and say it early. I'm gonna take UTSA to win that conference.
Yes.
That leaves the Sun Belt, which we did briefly mention. Oh, I could do this like this, actually. The Sun Belt, which we briefly mentioned the other night. Coastal Carolina, James Madison. We talked about that. James Madison is they're minus 14 now. I'm pretty sure it was 13.5 the other night, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
They're minus 14 now at home against Coastal Carolina. And that's just so much for a team that I think is good in Coastal Carolina. And we both did take Coastal to win that game outright. And this game doesn't matter as much as I'd mentioned in the last episode. They would be battling for the Sun Belt East. However, James Madison is not eligible to make the Sun Belt Championship as it is their first year in the conference. If James Madison was eligible, though, and they win this game, they would go to the Sun Belt Championship, or Coastal would go with their win. But however, that doesn't matter as much. Then we go down here to these two games right here: Old Dominion, South Alabama, Troy, Arkansas State. South Alabama and Troy are battling for the west side part of the Sun Belt Championship. They are both 6-1, as you can see, and both 9-2 overall, but both 6-1 in the Sun Belt. But Troy's one loss coming to App State. South Alabama's one loss is coming to Troy. So Troy would hold the tiebreaker if they were to stay tied, which I think they both do, because Troy is playing Arkansas State. South Alabama is playing Old Dominion. I would take Old Dominion to cover that 15.5 against South Alabama, though. But I would take Troy to cover 13.5 against Arkansas State. But I like I said, I think both teams win, so that would default Troy to go to the Sun Belt Championship against Coastal, and I think would be a good game.
I think South Alabama will cover against Old Dominion. I just think that they're done.
Yeah.
But I'll also take Troy to cover. So it'll be Troy versus Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Championship.
Okay. This is something that I did not know until right now, and I just thought about it while we were talking about Coastal Carolina, and I was wondering there has to be a reason why they are not favored. And this is coming from CBS on November 9th. Coastal Carolina star quarterback Grayson McCall missed 3 to 6 weeks with a foot injury.
Oh.
Putting his availability for the remainder of the regular season and perhaps the postseason in jeopardy. Do you remember when he went out in the App game?
Yeah.
It was the injury from the App game.
I'm not going to change my pick. I'm taking Coastal still.
I think I am too. And then the last conference we go to is the Pac-12, which leads us to two games that I want to talk about. Two of these big games this weekend. One is Oregon State. The other is USC and Notre Dame, which, like we just mentioned earlier, the USC Notre Dame doesn't matter as much, because even if USC was to lose this game, now that would probably eliminate them from the playoff contention, I would say. Maybe.
Yeah, it would.
You think so? I think it probably would too. But this would not matter in Pac-12 terms, so I think they have clinched their spot. USC is minus 5.5. Or actually, let me talk about this other game first because it's not as big as this one. Saturday at 3:30, we have Oregon at Oregon State. Oregon is minus 3. I'm going to take Oregon to win and cover that. What do you think?
I'm going to take Oregon State outright in this game.
Okay.
Oregon State State's been playing really well. They hadn't beat Oregon in a couple of years.
And they are
I
at
think
home.
they're due.
They are at home.
And that would lead
That would
to that Washington State game meaning a lot.
that would mean that okay, so that's a scenario in the Pac-12. It is going to be Southern Cal, and they would be playing Oregon or Washington. Those are the two teams that have the chance. Oregon would have to lose. Washington would have to win, but Oregon, sorry, wait, yeah, that's right. Oregon would have to lose. Washington would have to win. That's the situation. The reason why Utah does still have a chance now that no, they don't. Just kidding.
No, they don't. They lost to Oregon.
Yeah, because even if Washington lost, Utah won, and Oregon lost, Utah would still be under Oregon. That's correct. All right, my fault on that. So then let's talk about this USC Notre Dame game real quick. USC is at home. They are -5.5. I think they're rolling, and I think they're gonna roll. And this will be a prediction for next week too. I think USC is gonna roll into the playoffs this year. I'm gonna take USC, and I'm gonna take USC to cover 5.5. I think they win by a touchdown.
I also think that. I just don't think Notre Dame could score with USC. Caleb Williams has another Heisman type performance in this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see USC win by double digits.
Hot take right there.
A little bit.
And then last but not least, the game that everybody's talking about, the game that honestly for a couple weeks, a lot of people have been waiting for because a lot of people kind of knew it was going to happen, you know.
It is the game.
Yeah, it is. At the Horseshoe this year in Columbus, Ohio, we have the Wolverines facing the Buckeyes. Ohio State is -7.5. Woo.
A lot.
7.5 is a lot in this type of game. And I know who I'm picking to win, but I'm struggling on the spread if that gives any insight, you know.
If you want the insight, go look at the forecast. It's not going to be raining or snowing, and it's not going to be that cold.
Give me Ohio State to win. Give me Ohio State to cover.
I'm saying the same thing. I think Ohio State will beat Michigan. I hope I'm wrong about the covers. I'd like to see a good game here.
I have a bold prediction for this game, right? I think that Ohio State's up by like maybe a touchdown, getting late in the fourth quarter, right? And Michigan ends up turning the ball over in some sort of way, whether that is a turnover or downs, an interception, fumble, whatever. And Ohio State does get into their own territory, but then has to settle for a field goal with about like maybe 2 to 3 minutes left. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's how they win by 10. I think they win by like 10.
Do you have a rooting interest in this game?
Well, the other week we talked about our dream football playoff scenarios at the time, and I still am really wanting to see an Ohio State Georgia game, honestly. So,
and as a Clemson fan, you should probably root for Ohio State too, because I still don't think Ohio State gets knocked out. Michigan would get knocked out with a loss.
Yeah, no. Well, the big thing is with this game, and I think I heard somebody talking about this somewhere, or maybe I had said it to somebody else. Whoever wins this game is probably going to throttle the team out of the West. And it's going to make whoever loses this game look that much better, you know?
I don't know if Michigan would throttle Iowa.
Yeah, you got a point, maybe. But yeah, that's all the games. I think. Is there any more games that I missed? Any more rivalry games or anything?
I don't think so. We talked about Washington. We talked about Oregon, Florida. Last episode we went over a lot of these games.
So I want to
The
write
only
this.
one left to talk about is the biggest spread.
Yeah, and I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. But real quick, I want to write this down, right? For next week. Conference championship um matchup predictions. I'm gonna put it like that. Because I feel like if I say conference
Okay.
championship predictions, it'll be like we're talking about who's gonna win the conference championship, But I want to go off of like I want to say like okay, so ACC, SEC, MAC, and Mountain West are defaulted to nothing, okay?
Okay.
Because we already know who's in those games. So, and I feel like we're about the same here. So, Big 12, we know it's TCU. And we both said Kansas State gets there, right?
Right. Yeah, I think Kansas State gets there.
Okay. I think we might have said the same on all of these, actually. Big 10, we both said Ohio State versus
Iowa.
Iowa.
Not again.
Conference USA, we both said UTSA, which is already clinched, versus North Texas, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Sun Belt, we both said
Coastal versus Troy.
Yep. That's actually a game I would like to see. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad.
American, we both said UCF versus Cincy. And Pac-12, we both said
I had Washington.
Okay, okay. And I've got Oregon. Washington. Okay, cool. Yeah. I just feel like some of these teams have been on a crash course to play some of these teams at the end of the year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel like USC and Oregon have just been on a crash course to play each other.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing it. I just want it to be a little different.
And then
I'm kind of rooting for Washington.
The final segment that we always get at the end of every episode. We'll start with the Super Dogs. We are both wrong last week, as I took UConn plus 10 versus Army. They lost 34-17, I think. And you took Boston College plus 20.5 versus Notre Dame. I think they got beat 40-0 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
So that puts me at 3, and this is the only thing I've been keeping record of. I don't know why. That puts me at 3-2. You are now 1-4.
Let's go, baby. It's all Nebraska's fault.
So this week, you have taken Louisiana Tech plus 17 versus UAB, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That is what, Saturday game?
I think so.
Okay. And then I took Wyoming plus 15 versus Fresno State, and I think that's a Friday game. I think Friday night. Okay. Yeah, 10 o'clock Friday night. I have Wyoming plus 15 at Fresno State. And then you have Louisiana Tech plus 17.5, actually, at home against UAB. UAB playing for bowl eligibility, by the way. Biggest spread of the week is the game that you want to talk about. Do you want to talk about it any or no? You just want to predict?
Georgia versus Georgia Tech. Well, we're 35-point favorites, and we're going to win by more.
35.5.
We're going to win by more.
Y'all are in Athens, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it's either Athens, Sanford Stadium North, or Sanford Stadium South. I mean, either way, it doesn't matter.
Sure. Yeah, I'm gonna take Georgia too. I just think Georgia wins 56-7 or something like that, and then Georgia Tech's touchdowns late in the game,
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are both correct on the biggest spread of the week last week. It was Texas A&M minus 33.5 at home against UMass, and I think it was 20-3, right? Was the final score? Something like that.
Yeah, Texas A&M's awful.
Oh, Davis, by the way, Davis did pick that last week and got that wrong. So, but me and you,
Hey, we gotta expose him somehow.
yeah. And then last but not least, um, was hot take. We were both wrong on that also last week. You had Nebraska beating Wisconsin, of course,
Hate
and
Nebraska now.
I had Colorado keeps it close with Washington, and they got blown out. So, what is
I
your
have
hot take?
two hot. I have two hot takes.
Okay,
Can I do that?
yeah,
I have Louisville beats Kentucky on the road by 10 plus,
okay.
and then Florida State beats Florida by 14 plus.
Okay. My hot take this week is, and I said this earlier while talking about this game, and I said I would repeat it. My hot take this week is I think Cincinnati beats Tulane by double digits in a big game. So that is all for that. Anything you want to add in there, Jacob?
I don't think so. Rivalry week.
Big, huge week, huge week. I think I might have mentioned this, maybe not even on the episode earlier this week, but maybe just to you in person or something. I feel like this rivalry week this year is bigger than it usually is.
It's because of that Ohio State Michigan game meaning so much.
Yeah. And a lot of teams that we have seen in the past 2 to 3 years maybe not be as good or be in a rivalry game have a chance to actually win it this year. And
Yeah, South
South
Carolina,
Carolina, yeah, that's the
Florida
main
State,
reason. Yeah, Washington State, Oregon
and
State.
Washington.
Yeah, I mean a lot of things. But yeah, I guess that's all. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. I'm gonna drop this on Thanksgiving. We recorded on Wednesday. I think I'm gonna drop it on Thursday though. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope y'all enjoy this week of college football because I know I am.
It's gonna
But
be great.
yeah, I appreciate all the support, and we'll see y'all next time on the Mile High County College Football Podcast. Peace.
Peace out.